our peacekeeping and peacebuilding missions in hotspots around the world are calming tensions and fostering peace. In addition to these direct approaches, the United Nations continues its day-to-day work to address the many silent emergencies that create instability. We continue to work for the Millennium Development Goals, our blueprint for overcoming disease, poverty, and hunger. We are advancing gender equality and human rights. We are helping to establish the rule of law and to fight impunity. We are striving to create conditions where people can enjoy peace, embrace peace, and pass on the value of peace to their children. The timeless and tremendous power of nonviolence has transformed our world in the past year alone. The transitions that are underway will certainly be difficult. For too long, countries invested in violence instead of peace, but people are choosing non-violence. And if they continue using peaceful means, they can shape a better future in all countries, including established democracies. Let us commit to supporting the brave individuals who stake their lives on the belief that peaceful forms of protest bring lasting forms of peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary General. Your address today, covering not only the work of the UN, but also how non-violence has been is part of the Charter, and how we are trying to approximate towards that ideal is indeed very inspiring. Thank you very much. I now invite Professor Ramachandra Guha to give us his keynote address.
Ambassadors on the place, friends, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to begin with a story. A story about something that happened 50 years after Gandhi died, in 1998. Time magazine decided to choose the person of the century. As many of you would know, Time has a custom of choosing what used to be a man of the year, then they became somewhat more sensitive and made it person of the year. This tradition has been going on for very long, and they made some very unusual choices, complex choices, good choices, bad choices, controversial choices. No more good, bad, or controversial, shall we say, than the Nobel Peace Prize. But this year, they decided that they would choose the person of the century. So they got off early, 2 years before 2000. And they first thought they'd have an online poll. However, in the online poll, They were inundated by proposals from Indians, because as you know, Indians are very alert at getting online. And at that stage, 1998, there were probably several million Indians employed anyway to crack the Y2K problem. So in the midst of trying to crack the Y2K problem, they voted for X and Y. I think they voted for lots of Indian film stars, by the way. Possibly also a few Indian cricketers. So Time magazine abandoned that popular democratic method of choosing their person of the century and allocated the task to a jury, a small jury. And the jury came up with some very interesting names. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was ranked number 3. Mohandas K. Gandhi was ranked number 2. And Albert Einstein was ranked number 1. Now there will be various explanations to why Einstein was ranked number 1, charitable and uncharitable. The uncharitable one is to do can be explained with reference to what the great English writer Dr. Samuel Johnson once said. Patriotism is the last refuge of the popular magazine, shall we say. And of course, Time magazine is American, and so was Albert Einstein. The more charitable explanation would be that this was a salute to the brain, to creativity, to intellect, to the wonders of modern science, so they chose the greatest modern scientist. Now, I can say one thing for sure, that had Einstein known of this choice, he would have been deeply, deeply embarrassed. Time magazine may have placed Einstein above Gandhi, but Einstein placed Gandhi above everybody else. When Einstein was a professor of physics in Berlin in the late 1920s, there were 3 portraits that hung in his study. These were the physicist Michael Faraday, the physicist Max Planck, and a then relatively obscure Indian, at least obscure outside India, called Mohandas K. Gandhi. Einstein was one of Gandhi's first international fans, and he began writing to him in the late 1920s. In the text of my lecture, which will be circulated after the talk, I think all of you are welcome to pick up a copy. I won't really read from the text, I'll just single out some key moments of the text in my talk today. But in the text of my lecture, there are 2 quotes from Einstein as to what he said about Gandhi. One is a very well-known quote about where he says that generations to come will not believe that a person such as this walked on the earth in flesh and blood. But there's another quote in which Einstein, writing to Gandhi in 1930, says, and this is completely relevant to the theme of our presentation today, and indeed the Secretary General's most insightful remarks, he says, "You have started this non-violent movement against British colonial rule," writes Einstein to Gandhi, "but you have done more than that. You have shown us a way, a non-violent way of settling disputes between human beings, indeed disputes between nations." And that letter of Einstein, written to Gandhi in 1930, may possibly be said to have anticipated the creation of the United Nations in a certain way. Anyway, so when Einstein was a professor in Berlin in the late 1920s, the 3 portraits in his study were those of 2 great physicists and Mahatma Gandhi. Well, Einstein was forced to flee Germany because of his fate. He was a Jew, and Hitler's regime made it impossible for him to live and work in his native country. So he came to this country, this United States, always hospitable to exiles and refugees, which gave Einstein a home and a perch at the Institute of Advanced Studies in Princeton. In the late 1940s, a journalist went to visit Einstein in his study in Princeton. And there he found only 1 portrait. And this journalist had done his homework. He knew that there were other pictures, other icons, other idols that Einstein had. And he asked Einstein, "I just see Gandhi. Where are Max Planck and Michael Faraday?" And Einstein answered. He said, "Well, between 1929 and 1949, the discoveries of modern physics gave us the atom bomb.